Well, hey, my friends, today we are having a proper workday in the garden. There's a lot to do out here. First and foremost, it's like storm recovery mode. We had an atmospheric river blow in this past weekend. Power lines went down, tree branches fell. It was craziness. So all that to say, I got to clean up after that chaos has finally blown through. The second thing is I'm going to start putting my garden to bed. That means I'm going to take down my warm season crops. I'm going to start putting my dahlias. I'm going to start prepping them for division and storage. And we're just going to create a little bit of order here in a state of total chaos. I'm going to show you what I mean. Friends, I feel like this is peak crazy up in here. We had to move a ton of stuff into the front garden for the construction project that we are currently working on in the back garden, and it has created a heavy dose of chaos up here. Okay, the other bit of chaos, you guys, look at this, just birch branches everywhere. We had a storm and our lovely birch tree that is up there rained down about 1 million branches. So we got to get that cleaned up. Okay, when the garden is this crazy, sometimes it takes me a minute to figure out where I'm going to start. And so I think I'm going to start with the things that are like tripping hazards in my way first. And two of those things are behind me. These are actually leftover hanging baskets from a client's house. And they're these massive, beautiful baskets that we purchased from Wells Medina. They do some of the best hanging baskets around. So I couldn't bear to throw them out. And so I'm going to empty them. I'm going to see if I can overwinter the geraniums, but they're definitely in the way. So we're going to tackle those first. Next order of business is the pretty little bit of chaos behind me. And you guys, there's so much to be done. But I think I don't want to overwhelm myself. So I'm going to do a couple things. Number one, I'm going to take out all of my warm season crops. So my cucumbers, my tomatoes, my peppers, and my beans. That's number one. Oh my gosh, that October sun, it is like warming my heart right now. Okay, I've gotten most of the warm season crops out of here. And I think what I want to do next is this garden is still feeling super chaotic. And I know it's because I've brought all of the dahlias up here from the cut flower garden to make room for that renovation. So I think at this point, I want to turn my attention towards the dahlias that are clearly dying back, the ones that are clearly like, yeah, it's been real, Kate. We'll see you next year. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start probably with the ones in the pots, and I'm going to go ahead and cut off the foliage. I'm going to rinse back the clump of tubers and then set them aside to dry for a little bit so I can begin the process of dividing. All right, I've identified the first 5 that I am going to start prepping for storage. And these ones are Bracken Palomino, Ferncliff Spice. There's actually 2 clumps in there. This one is Coconut Puff. This one is Skipley Moonglow. I really liked this one. And this one is labeled Dark Row. And if you watched that video, this is no surprise to you. I lost my Dahlia map and not all of them were labeled. So I have a couple that say Dark Row, and I have about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 that just simply say Good Row. And I know for a fact I'm not the only person out there who has done this. It's actually really funny. I even called Anne at Dahlia House to see if I was like, girl, help me out here. Do you even recognize some of these dahlias? But not all of them were blooming. So she helped me identify like 3 or 4 of them. And then the rest I had cut back and they didn't have any blooms pushing. And construction was trucking right along. So they had to go.
So I want to just kind of talk about what I'm doing here real quick. Essentially, this is the method that works for me. There's a lot of people with very strong opinions about dahlia storage online, but I just feel like go with what works for you. Don't hold yourself to such a high standard that we forget that gardening is joyful. So essentially, if I am pulling a dahlia tuber out of a pot, I tip the pot on its side and I gently slide it out. That's it. If I'm lifting it from the ground, I'm going to use a pitchfork. Those are just the 2 methods that tend to work for me. Next, this is probably honestly the most important thing in this dahlia storage process. I give myself a handle. So essentially, I'm going to cut the stem and I'm going to leave it about 4 to 6 inches long. I find that this is like the perfect length for twirling it around when you're inspecting your clumps, when you're giving it a really good rinse. And whenever you're handling it, I find that give yourself a handle. It just saves a lot of heartache. Next, when you remove them from either their pot or the ground, I like to essentially tease out the extra soil. I'm not going to shake it because then I've broken necks in the past. So instead, you'll see I'm going in with my fingers and I look like I'm just gently teasing it down the roots. All right, this next tip is for my busy brains out there. I have decided that I only put 1 tuber clump in a tray with its appropriate plant tag. There have been years where I think surely I will remember these 3 different tubers that are in 1 tray. Well, no, I never do. So I now have the rule, 1 clump, 1 tray, 1 tag, and that is how I roll. Once you've got everybody kind of organized, then bring yourself over to your washing station. And by the by, I typically do this after my first frost. However, because I moved a bunch of my dahlias, they were really struggling, and so I have no problem cutting them back early. Now, once I have them in their tray, I actually will also rinse them in the tray because I find that I can develop a little bit of a puddle and give them a good swish. And I'm not worried about having them 100% squeaky clean. In fact, I've actually stored them some years completely covered in dirt because I got too busy and I just divided in the spring. So, all that to say, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Once everybody's had a good little bath, I will set the trays into a location to dry. This can be in a basement, it can be on my, dining table, what have you. The key points here are don't put it on concrete because that'll suck all the moisture out of it. And once it's dry, you're going to take a traditional garden marker and write the name of the dahlia directly on the tuber.
All right, guys. First, for Dahlia varieties, dug, washed, and inspected, and they actually look really, really good. I want to show you just a couple of them just so you can see how different they all are. Right here, what's interesting is I started off with one mother clump right here in the middle. You can actually see, this is probably, I think, the most difficult thing is a lot of times that mother tuber will die out and it can rot. What's happened here is it's actually separated into two really healthy clumps. And so I will be able to easily divide Skipley Moonglow this year. This one over here, this is Coconut Puff, and it did not produce a ton of tubers. You're going to notice a lot of variety. Some of them produce a lot of tubers, some of them not so much. So truth be told, I probably won't even divide this one. I may get rid of that tuber. Do you see how there's kind of like a hole in it? I don't want to deal with anything rotting, so I may chuck off this guy. But other than that, I will store this clump as a whole. All right, next is Bracken Palomino. And aside from this super weird tuber formation, it also looks totally healthy. You can actually see a lot of really good eye development, very strong necks. This one I could easily divide in several clumps. Right over here, you can kind of see, okay, this I think, it's either this one or this one, but one of these two were the mother tuber. They are still really firm. This one does have a slight imperfection on this side. I don't know if you guys can see that. Slight imperfection, but I don't even feel like this is anything worth being super concerned about. Just because I have so many of these tubers, I might just slice that guy off. Last but not least, we've got Ferncliff Spice. And again, two very healthy, very normal looking tuber clumps, beautifully productive. And these guys, I actually probably, because they are so massive, I mean, this is probably 10 inches in diameter, at least, yeah, this is about 10 inches in diameter. I'm probably going to whack this sucker in half or in thirds for storage, just because this becomes a lot to fit into a storage bin. Well, believe it or not, I've actually been out in this garden for like 3 hours. And so I am going to call it a day, and I will see you in the next one. In the meantime, say hello to your garden for me.